This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey, what's happening? This is TC Carson, and you are listening to ACMG's Talk Time Live. And this is Kratos. Keep listening.
Previously on Talk Time Live exclusive.
In the game's gallery mode, which I love that you guys added a gallery mode to show your fantastic work in here. I noticed that there were some character concepts that did not make it into the game. Was that due to time constraint, or was it not fitting the narrative of this in the story?
Well, mainly production constraint, because I had to animate everything by myself.
Yeah.
And so this is a lot of enemies, a lot of characters. Like there is like 5 playable characters, which is a lot. And there's a lot of enemies that could have been into the game, but since they were not responding to a particular gameplay need, it was best to avoid to put a lot of pressure on production animation.
Was there anything else that was left out of the game that you wanted to be on there? If you're able to talk about that.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course so my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's ACMG. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Gentlemen, welcome to the journal of my life that covers all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Folks, we got some really great stuff to talk about today. And on our talk topic of this week, we're going to be reviewing Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, the final installment of the DC animated 52 universe. So we're going to talk about that at the top of this show. Before I talk about anything else, I want to give a big thanks to Ben Fiquet, who is the CEO of Lizard Cube Game Studio and the art director and artist, and he wears many hats doing this, but he was the guy, I would call him the showrunner or the front runner of the game Streets of Rage 4, the Sega cult classic. Got a chance to talk to him, and thank you to all the listeners and new listeners that has been on the show to talk, who listened to the show and downloaded the show. We got a hike in our listenership this week because of that, and it goes to show how really well that game is loved and how much great work they put onto it. And if you haven't listened to it, you heard a clip just a minute ago. We got a chance to talk about his work on it, his involvement with it, as well as, how COVID-19 is affecting them, and will we see more content? So all of that is there. If you haven't got a chance to check it out, go out of your way to check it out. It's on TalkTimeLive.com right now. If you subscribe to any of our platforms, we're on all major platforms, as you know, so you can find it anywhere and download it there for ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. So thank you, Ben. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, and definitely we're going to have you on again. I really like the fact that not only he looked out for the little guys like myself, but he also, appreciated what I've done. He actually listened. He told me he actually listened to some of the older, the other interviews that I've done, especially with game developers, and he really enjoyed it. So he was more than ready to come on. I do want to point out, I had a really, really big snafu during that interview, and it wasn't from, the questions or whatever like that, or the conversation. It was a technical difficulty that I had. If you heard it, and it sounded like I was literally social distancing with him because there was an echo going on. And this, if you heard last week's episode with Tracy Dory as well, it happened there, and it stemmed from that episode last week, because what happened. And it really bummed me out the entire week that this happened, because I really like to make sure that the audio quality is good in every episode. And to some extent, it wasn't all bad. It could have been much worse. It was clear and concise, but it just had that echo sound like I was in the background in a sense. But at least Ben and Tracy were both in the foreground, and you could hear them. And they're, to me, a little bit more important than me in this case. So it's best to hear from them more than you hear from me. But I usually try to make sure the audio quality is better. Now, basically what happened was, when I was with Tracy, I was going to do video chat on Skype. What I didn't know is that my Logitech webcam, which I never use, ever use, that cam actually has a microphone in itself. So along with my Blue Yeti mic, both of them are picking up sound. So now that's why you're hearing a faraway sound and a close sound. So you hear that clear and concise of the Blue Yeti, but you're hearing this faraway sound too. So it wasn't until I figured it out and unhooked it is when I got that audio back, and I did a few tests, and I still need to do a few more tests to make sure that it's all good. But from this point on, you shouldn't hear any more far away social distancing echoing sounds on interviews at all, or when I'm doing Skype interviews or whatever. So that is done. That has been troubleshot. And of course, I'm recording now, and there's a difference between when I record by myself and when I record using everything, because I'm not using any of the other, attachments or anything for it. So it's just me and the Blue Yeti, which is my best friend right now when it comes to these shows. And it really bummed me out. It really bummed me out, because I like to make sure that every episode, we've done like over 40 interviews. And again, which you could check out on talktimelive.com/exclusive. If you listen to all those, you notice that the audio is really, really good in those. And then this one is just like, it's okay. At best, it's okay. So I was bummed out because I really like it. But then all this news came this week, and that put a different perspective at me right now, because at least I got this interview out, and at least it was good enough that we had a great conversation and all the stuff, and it could have been far worse. But with all the news that's going on this week, and all the unfortunate news that's going on outside of our favorite fandoms, I had to pull back on my little woe story, my little sob story, because that's all it is. The interview actually, overall, and in comparison to all the unfortunate news that's going on, it's more than okay. So I'm bare with it. But all the news that's going on, like, we lost 2 legends this week. We had an unfortunate situation that is finally being brought to light. And all of them pertaining to my people, my community, and my culture. Rest in peace, Andre Harrell, the legendary music producer. Rest in peace to one of the greatest of all time, Little Richard. And rest in peace to Ahmaud Arbery. I can't even stress the amount of situations, the amount of stress and just having to fathom what has happened. And the fact that they finally caught this guy. And I won't get too deep on it, because I know everybody's heard about it. If you haven't heard about it, look up Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud spelled Ahmaud. Arbery spelled Arbery. And ask us why we are always afraid sometimes to go outside and live carefree like other people who got the privilege to live carefree. It's just horrible news, and I'm just glad that they found the two that murdered him, and I hope that it's true justice actually happens. And it's just a light of what we all need to do. And now that people finally seen light, there's memorials happening, just like you would see with Trayvon Martin. But here's the thing, and I'm going to just cut it right after this. Trayvon Ahmad didn't die from wearing a hoodie or jogging. That was some circumstance. That was some simple circumstances, I guess I could call it. They died because they were black. Plain and simple. They died because they were black. That means I could die because I'm black. That means my people can go through the same thing depending on where you live at or whatever happens or what goes on with the cops. It can happen, and it shouldn't happen. And we, instead of people, jogging in memorial and wearing hoodies in memorial, how about we all, not just, white people or other ethnicities, us too, why don't we all work together to try to end racism, to put in the laws needed to protect people, to scare them into not doing stuff like this? I just put a clip on my Facebook page with Little Richard, God rest his soul, truly the greatest of all time. And there wouldn't be no Elvis if not for people like him. It wouldn't be rock and roll if not for people like him. He was in a movie. What was the movie called? I forgot. I just posted it up. For God's sakes. And Down and Out in Beverly Hills. There's a movie where I believe Richard Dreyfuss is actually coming out of his mansion, and there's a helicopter at the top. There's cops coming with dogs. There's a camera out front, and all of a sudden, coming across, screaming his lungs off, is Little Richard, who's expressing his disdain for the fact that he's never had this type of attention from the cops when he got robbed in his house. And this is an actual scene from the movie. And he goes on the camera. He goes to the cameraman, and the cameraman is recording him, and he's talking about how when he got robbed at his mansion, his $3 million mansion that he just paid for in this scene, where he got robbed, and it took cops 20 minutes to get to the house. He said there was no helicopters, which in the scene there really is helicopters there. They're attacked, they're police dogs, they're stuff like it. It's just all this is happening, and he's letting it all out. And in the scene, you'll see like all these dogs are looking at him and as a threat. It's a really, really intriguing scene on that movie. It's very intriguing. But it all sums up, his death, and it all sums up everything that is going on this entire of all last week, because it's Sunday now, so it's a new week. It just sums up everything that just happened last week. And again, rest in peace to him, rest in peace to Andre Harrell, rest in peace to Ahmaud Arbery, and rest in peace to every single person who has suffered and been antagonized and has died due to these unfortunate and unreasonable and circumstances that should have never happened. We as a society, we as a country, we as humans need to do much, much, much better. There's nothing else really to be said other than that. So I'll just leave it at that. Folks, like I said, we got not a lot of things. We got some things to talk about in the world of our favorite fandoms. And at the top of the show, we got Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. So we're going to talk about that. So let's not waste any more time. Actually, just for the record, that's not wasting time. We needed to talk about that. But I digress. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, so the biggest news that came out this week in all of our favorite fandoms is, in fact, from NetherRealm Studios, who announced a brand new DLC expansion pack for Mortal Kombat 11 called Aftermath. Nobody saw this coming. This was totally out of the blue. And if you guys remember, if you guys recall way back, I reviewed Mortal Kombat 11. I absolutely loved that game. It was the fighting game of the year without a doubt. And absolutely because of this expansion pack, it may be the fighting game of the year again. Solely because that this expansion pack includes an entire new story based on the aftermath, there you go, of everything that's happened in the original main story. So technically, this is somewhat of a sequel. Technically, you could say that this is kind of Mortal Kombat 12 in a sense. There's no telling how long the story mode is, but it is. I am all for this. I mean, it is unbelievable. And I talked about how NetherRealm kind of dropped a ball in a sense of just revealing things, because they let us know what we're getting beforehand, but they didn't give it that impact, that surprise, that shock value that we had when Injustice came out and they announced when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out. And I remember when and we talked about this many times, that announcement at E-League when they did the Injustice tournament, midnight, 12 o'clock midnight, and they announced the new characters that were going to be on the game. Nobody knew who it was going to be, what it was going to be, and lo and behold, it was revealed as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and everybody went crazy. People in that studio went crazy in the tournament, people around the world. I think I woke up people like out of the blue. It was at that Final Fantasy VII remake level. Not to the point that we cried, because that was a whole nother thing. That was years and years of built up emotion right there. But it was a huge out of nowhere shock. And I felt like I was hoping that they would give the same type of feel for Mortal Kombat 11. And I felt like after all, even with Spawn, as great as that is, and as much as I anticipated, and I absolutely love all of the new DLC characters that have come out, it didn't provide that shock value that we wanted, and it would have actually helped them more. Oh, did we get a shock? Did we get a surprise now? Because nobody saw an expansion pack with a whole new story coming, and this is absolutely awesome. And I mean, this wasn't just the end. They added so much more to this as well. So, in the trailer, the story takes place after Liu Kang Fire God Liu Kang defeated Kronika. A portal opens up with three figures in the form of Shang Tsung, played by Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who's reprising his role as the treacherous sorcerer from the live-action version from New Line Cinema way back, Fujin, the god of wind and best friend of Raiden, and Nightwolf, who now is in the actual story this time. So that's awesome. So Shang Tsung informs Raiden and Liu Kang that when he destroyed Kronika, he also destroyed the crown that controlled time, which, if you guys remember in the story of the original Mortal Kombat 11 story, it was the crown that Jax and Jackie went after and used to defeat one of the, I think it was the other Jax or whatever. I forgot who they were facing at the time when they used that crown. But Liu Kang apparently destroyed it along with Kronika itself. So Shang Tsung wants Liu Kang to send him back to the past to recover the crown and retrieve his secrets. Now, if it was anybody else, I'm sure they would be like, okay, let's do this. Shang Tsung always has something up his sleeve, and it's always skeptical about it. And, so Raiden, of course, is skeptical of this. The trailer also shows the debut of Fujin as a playable character, along with Shiva, who we also see in the original story, is now going to be a part of the new Aftermath story. The story also reveals the resurrection of Sindel. So this is going to be interesting, because the deal is that if you play the arcade mode of Mortal Kombat 11, then you saw the end story, you saw that she actually helped the plot kill her husband, Katana's father, and King of I believe it's NetherRealm, that they were a part of. So it will be interesting to see if they will follow up with that, or whether that actual ending was in fact a what if type of story narrative to that. So, but the biggest news that came out of this, and this was the shocker. This was the complete shocker, because I love it, because Shang Tsung is like, you never know what's going to happen when we try to, change up things. And lo and behold, they cut to a scene where there's a cop saying, 1010, we need backup. Lo and behold, of all people to come out of this, the biggest surprise of this entire thing is the appearance of RoboCop. I don't know who asked for RoboCop, and I'm not complaining at all. I think this is an awesome addition to the game, since they already got cyborgs and whatnot. So, and all those cyborgs are probably inspired by RoboCop anyway. So it is going to be interesting to have. Not only that, but the cherry on top of this is that doing the voice of RoboCop is the original actor who played RoboCop. Peter Weller is, in fact, the damn voice of this RoboCop on here. So we're getting full authenticity here. We got Shang Tsung played by Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa. We now have Spawn played by Keith David, and now we have RoboCop played by Peter Weller. I can't speak for everybody else, but I am very much welcoming this. I already pre-ordered this game, so I am ready for this to come. There's more surprises as well. Also announced, new added stages, the return of stage fatalities, which I love. So you got the pit back, and some other things as well, and friendships, which in fact are all free updates outside of the expansion. So even if you didn't get the expansion pack, you will be getting all of this for free. That's awesome. So pre-order now, like I did, and you also get the Eternal Clash skin pack, which is some really cool skins for I don't know how many people have it, but they showed Sub-Zero, Scorpion. I forgot who the other person that they showed as well, but it would be interesting. I love this. I love this. For those who already own it, like myself, on the original full game, like myself, the expansion pack will cost $39.99. I already invested. I don't think I'm going to have a bad investment here. I'll be surprised, but of course you'll know, because I'm going to review the hell out of that damn thing when it comes out. So stay tuned for that. But for those who have yet to get the game, and I don't know why you haven't, but maybe actually this is probably the reason. And kudos to you because of this. The game has a great deal ahead right now, and I guess this is now their like ultimate pack. We talk about this before. NetherRealm always does this in the sense that they, have all the DLC out, and then they'll sell the whole entire thing in its entirety for all one good lump price. They outdid themselves here. I'm not necessarily mad at the fact that I technically, and in a sense that I paid more for this, but I do like that they want people to do it. And you got to also consider, we're in a COVID-19 society right now, so not everybody can pay the price that they want, and I think that's more considerate than anything. And I think I have a feeling, had it not been COVID-19 right now, and we're going through all this, that this might have been, they would have charged a little bit more for this. But for the entire game in its entirety, you will be paying $49.99, which includes the original full game, the first season DLC pack, plus the new expansion pack. That's really good. And again, if it wasn't for the fact of what's going on today, I wouldn't mind it. But the reality is, they want to still make profit, and we have people who may not be able to afford like that full game fee. It just reality. We got people who have lost their jobs right now. We got people who may not be able to afford it but want it. So they want people to be able to have that experience, or the entire experience alone. And I got to tell you, if you need something new to play, and if you haven't played Mortal Kombat and you are a fighting game fan of sorts, this is not a bad deal at all. You're getting two full games at once, and technically speaking, this is two different game experiences with more characters, more options, more game experiences, and a hell of a loaded roster. And I mean a loaded roster. To me, in my mind, this new expansion pack just reinvigorated the game as a new game itself. Like, to me, this is a sequel. So, and added with the new stages and everything and the fatalities and the friendships, which is now back as well, then technically this is a new game experience. So this can be re-voted back in as Game of the Year, in my opinion. If you reinvigorate the game like that, I can't speak for Jeff Keighley or whatever, but if you reinvigorate a game to make it an experience that you didn't have the first time around, that to me is I think it, for me, is valid to re-enter it as a brand new game with a whole new story and narrative and such. So I'm all for this. I'm looking forward to this. The game will be released. The expansion will arrive on May 26th, the end of this month. And again, this is another thing why I believe COVID-19 is affecting the price that they are charging for the full game experience here, because due to COVID-19, this will be a digital only purchase at this time. Much like Square Enix and other game companies, they cannot manufacture the game. They have to be in studio. Factories are closed due to COVID-19, so this is a tough deal. So digital is the only way to go. And not to toot my own horn, but this is another reason why I am a digital advocate. I fully cannot, like, this is why I don't like one of many reasons why I don't like getting physical copies. But the fact that we have another way and another option is always great. And maybe this will maybe, assimilate people into digital downloading in this case. It just helps out. Had we not had digital download distribution, and that means we wouldn't be able to play any new games at all. And that means people would go the hell crazy. So just consider that. Consider how grateful another option like this is. That week is going to be a crazy week because a lot of things I think is coming out in May as well, including the new Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season starts on May 27th, which is the day after. So it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to this. I'm absolutely looking forward to this. Last bit of news I wanted to talk about is the new show from the creators of Rick and Morty, that is Solar Opposites. And let me tell you, man, I actually really, really enjoyed it, but surprisingly not as much as I would have, as I would like. I was expecting something. I was hoping for something totally new that I didn't get from the original Rick and Morty series. Justin Roiland, created this series as well as he was co-creating Rick and Morty as well. And he co-created this too, because I believe somebody else also has a name on this, Mike McMahon, actually. So the first 8 episodes, which they consider the first season, I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it no more or no less than I did with Rick and Morty. It is literally the same thing with somewhat of a different premise, and it's an easy to understand premise. Like I said before when they talked about this with the trailer, and it's basically a family of aliens who move to Middle America, where they debate whether life is better there or on their planet, because they crash landed on this planet. So they decided to live on this planet to hopefully find a way to get back. There's some really, really interesting characters. Justin Roiland plays Corvo on here, and there's another character, Yum Ya Lock by Sean Glamborn from the Goldbergs, and I think he's the one to me that stick out, because I already know what Justin Roiland's done. I've never heard. Well, actually, that's not true. I've heard Sean Glamborn play other things before, but this show is a rated R version, or a TVMA version of what Rick and Morty. If you thought Rick and Morty goes to a provocative level, this show goes even further, because they're exclusively on Hulu. They're allowed to do things that they will never be able to do or say on Cartoon Network or on Adult Swim. Never. And Adult Swim is kind of risque. This just goes and breaks that wall, that glass ceiling. So, I mean, that will be the only contrast from it. But like the the premise, the narrative, all are very similar to that of Rick and Morty. Like, this can easily be a spinoff to that show. But seeing this alien family try to assimilate and adjust to American society is quite funny. But they do an awful lot of weird science fiction type things as well. That is funny too. I think what really separates the two shows is the fact that there are 3 different stories that is going on in each episode. One that involves Corvo and I forgot the guy's name. Corvo and whatever the other alien character is that he's named. Because they don't really, do they really show that on IMDb? No, they don't really. But, Justin Rollins plays, I believe, 2 characters in there, and I don't know if it's 2 of the main characters in there, but it's a focus on the 2 main characters. That's one story that the show focuses on. Then it's Yumulak and Jessie, I believe is her name, which is the 2 kids. So their storyline involves them, adjusting and assimilating into high school life with kids and everything. And every once in a while, Yumulak tends to shrink annoying people in the world and put them in this whole new world, this little micro world, and that he makes for himself, that he's created for himself. And these guys, in order to survive, they created this microcosmic world like within themselves to survive, and they've been trying to get back into order of things. So then there's that storyline, because all of the humans that he shrunk has created a new society of themselves to survive, and there's one particular episode, episode 7, which I really like because it reminds me of my favorite episode on Rick and Morty, which is the Citadel episode. I forgot what that name of that episode is called, but it's where all the Ricks and all the Mortys are living. There's nothing about Rick and Morty. It's just about all of the Ricks and the Mortys in the Citadel, and just a day in the life of all of them and the cops and everything, and how crooked the cops are. It's a reflection of what goes on in the real world. They have an episode just like that, which is episode 7, and there's a huge twist in that episode that is really, really good, and you don't see it coming. They treat it like a motion picture, like a Hollywood motion picture film, and it's really cool. So it's not that I say it's really, really good. If you're a Rick and Morty fan, you'll love it, because it's just, honestly, it really feels like it's just more of the same. If you're not a Rick and Morty fan, then you probably won't like it either, because it's more of the same. So if you didn't like Rick and Morty, you're not going to like this. It has the same sort of kind of dialogue and narrative that you see in there. And like I said, the only thing that really separates is this, like, the focus on the three different stories in there. But I mean, I would just say it's an extension to what you already like on Rick and Morty. So it is really cool. There are some really funny moments in there, and I like the fact that one of the characters, not Corvo, but I think the other character, wears these t-shirts, and each one of them have something really cool. It's like these really cool ironic t-shirts with ironic wordings on there. One of my favorites that he has on there is, like, he just has bacon, lettuce, tomato on there, but my favorite is the one where he kind of makes it's kind of a play off of Straight Outta Compton, and it's a straight out of anime. Which is fantastic. So I mean, it would be really cool, because I would be surprised if we don't see a crossover happening with this show and Rick and Morty. It has to happen. It just really has to happen here. But like I said, if you're a Rick and Morty fan, you'll love it. All 8 episodes is available now. That's considered their first season. They are scheduled to have a second season coming as well, with another 8 episodes too. So, and speaking of Rick and Morty, I do want to point out one thing. I did catch up with the new season and the new episodes, and one of the funniest lines I've heard all year came from this year's season. And at the very end of this episode, and again, forgive me, I forgot about what episode it was, but it was the episode where all these different guys that were trying to kill Rick and Morty were in a train. And at the end of it, it's a toy. It pretty much there's a scene where like Morty buys a toy train for Rick, and Rick all of a sudden finds out that the train derails, and I guess it can't work, and there's blood all over the place, so there's actual real people in there. And Rick is talking about Morty's talking about he'll return the actual train and get his money back. Rick goes on the line and says, "No, did you not understand what the whole entire story, this episode was about? They breaking the fourth wall." And he says, "No, buy another one, Morty. Consume, Morty. No one's buying shit because of this virus." And that right there, I love how they slipped that in, because it just told us this episode aired I think last week. It aired last week, and it already addresses the situation that's going on with COVID-19 and the coronavirus. I thought that was I'm like, wow, they really, really jumped on this really quickly. They did not waste any time. And I love how he just subtly slipped that in. It was just awesome. So it took me a while to get into the Rick and Morty TV show, but it kind of was just like, it kept coming on and it kept coming on. So it was like, all right, let me just keep watching. But then I started listening to some of the lines and all the things that were going on. I am definitely a fan of this show. It is crazy. If you just look at it just visually, you won't get it. If you listen to it, it actually is a very smart and clever show. It is awesome. So that is actually all I have. Of course, this is Corona season. This is the Corona culture right now. So we are actually... there's not too much news going on, but luckily we still have some things to talk about this week. But we're going to take a break, come back, and talk about the final installment to the 52 DC animated universe and see how it fared well. Did it execute everything that was leading up to this? And how much did I enjoy it? So we'll review that and we'll talk about it right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
Hey, this is Jeff Thorne. I am the writer, producer, showrunner of the Avengers Black Panther's Quest TV series, and you are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Play!
All right, folks, we are back with our talk topic of the week, and it is my review of Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War, the final installment of the DC 52 animated universe of movies dating back to 2013 when Flashpoint Paradox appeared, leading into the 52 universe movies. And actually, I'm thinking it might have even dated back even before that, because there was the, traditional DC universe, and one of those movies I think then led into Flashpoint Paradox, which then led into the first version of these movies, and there were movies coming year after year after that. And the crazy part is I forgot that they all kind of connected together, and it was like one leading to another movie coming to try to give it that Marvel Studios formula that they did. It's very interesting because I forgot about all that it led it to get all this, and now we see everybody come together in what is definitely their end game type of movie experience here. So, unlike certain other companies, DC is not afraid to take what it was successful for another company and made it to their own. And I'm talking about you, Vince McMahon, in the WWE, of course. But nonetheless, this movie sees John Constantine joining the Justice League, which, by the way, John Constantine in this movie is the main character. He is the main protagonist. It is not Superman. It is not Batman. And there's reasons why, but this is awesome. Matt Ryan reprises his role as John Constantine here, so it even makes it even better. But this movie focuses on John Constantine, who's joining the Justice League thanks to his lover and love interest, Zatanna, which I guess they did kind of mention that in the other Justice League Dark movie, I guess. But this leads to a plot led by Superman to overthrow Darkseid's forces once and for all. Flash, who reminds Superman about the dangers he faced during Paradox, and John Constantine remains skeptical of this risk as well, because it's risking the lives of humans everywhere on Earth if they reach out to do an attack. Superman's argument to that is that he's going to come anyway, so we might as well just go after him before he comes to us. And they already showed images of other planets that was already infiltrated and destroyed by him. So they're saying let's beat him to the punch. Unfortunately, this leads to turmoil because Darkseid was way ahead of the Justice League thanks to his ability to hack into Cyborg's mother box capabilities. Of course, if you guys don't know, Cyborg is a cyborg, but most of his technology is from that of Apocalypse. So if anybody knows how to compromise his system, it is definitely Darkseid himself. So that just screws everything up. In the middle of this war room meeting, Raven of the Teen Titans is experiencing trouble keeping her father, Trigon, I'm sorry, I said Triton. Trigon in control. So there's that situation. That's another whole story to this whole plot. In the midst of all this, Lex Luthor, which I had no idea was a part of the Justice League, and I gotta go back to the actual movies of where he ends up being a part of this crew. But consequently, this was met with an unfortunate loss, leading to many of our favorite heroes from Justice League, Teen Titans, and the Titans to their demises, or worse. The timeline takes you then 2 years later into a battered and bruised post-apocalyptic future where Constantine and Etrigan are lone survivors in the aftermath of this ambush of Darkseid, which, of course, he knew what was going on. He decided to go and ambush him, period. It was just crazy. That is until we think that they're lone survivors until we see they're met with Superman and Raven, who also survived in the most horrid outcome. Of course, Superman no longer has his powers after a crucial liquid kryptonite injection that hinders his powers thanks to Darkseid as a way of reminding him of his decisions to attack them. And now you see the error of your ways. He's not going to kill him. He's going to torture him because all that he's fought for basically has gone to hell. And now he gets to witness every day of his bad decisions. Raven in this whole entire situation looks very malnourished, but still has her abilities, and the two come to ask John for help. Now, granted, she's still fighting Trigon, who is trying to escape out of her gem, that little gem of hers in her head. So that's a whole situation. In all of this, we also learned that Constantine, based on a backstory that they talk about, actually ran away during the war leading to Zatanna's death. Like, he literally left her to die as parademons were mutilating her as she screamed for John's help. That was an insane scene right there. I never thought I would see a superhero like run away in fear of dying. And then they added to that, he left his girl to die. The person who said that she loved him, he left in fear to die. Like, how or why did that even happen? That's a really interesting point of character direction that they did for John Constantine. Like, that was deep. Like, that was very deep. They did. Somehow, some way, we still love John Constantine after that whole entire situation. It's crazy. In all of this, Batman is now one of Darkseid's new gods. Like, instead of killing him, he decided to make him one of his heralds, and is now in control of the Morbius chair, which is based on the Darkseid War comic saga, where Batman became a god of knowledge. So they're playing off of that there as well. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor is partially working for Darkseid as one of his new gods as well. And I say partially for a reason, which leads further into the story there. It's Lex Luthor, of course. Lex Luthor is the Shang Tsung of the DC universe, and vice versa. So the survivors all meet up with Damian Wayne, who is now taken the helm of Ra's al Ghul. He is the Demon Hand now, that was the whole point of his whole ordeal in the first place. And since Batman has been taken away by Darkseid, what is it left for him to do but to run the League of Shadows? But in a different way. He's still more of a protagonist in this case than he is a antagonist. So this is a more mature, grown-up version of Damian, who now has pure affection and love for his father than he's ever had before. He respects and loves his father in this deal. He also respects and loves Raven. And that's something that was been traced back to the Teen Titans movies came out a few years back. So they've always developed that storyline with them on that. So you have that right there. And now they convinced John to help in order to possibly save Damian to possibly save his father from Darkseid. So it's up to John and the crew, this misfit crew, the land of broken the land of broken toys or whatever like that, to find the remaining survivors and truly defeat Darkseid in hopes that they can his reign of terror will truly end and hopefully fix whatever has been broken in Earth. So that is pretty much the story of that, and it's a really interesting story. They went into a lot of places here that never thought we would never see the light of day on a DC film, which is crazy because, and I'll talk about this, how much DC Comics and the DC brand has changed over the years. And it's an amazing thing. I'm going to point this out to a video game reference that has been talked about many times based on the DC universe back then. So, favorite performances. Matt Ryan, of course, as John Constantine, is the main character of the show and is for a reason. I love his performance. I thought he stood out. Just despite the fact that we learned that he ran away letting Zatanna die. That's some ill shit. That's really ill. We got Jerry O'Connell, who also does a great job, of course, as the son of Krypton. It always amazes me. I think he's one of my favorite actors in these movies, is because he has such a range that I never knew Jerry O'Connell to have. When you hear Jerry O'Connell do interviews, or you hear him outside of this performance of Superman, he has a distinct voice and dialect. When he plays Superman, you do not know that he's Superman. I love actors who have this type of range, and I never knew Jerry O'Connell had this range. I've said this before, I've been following Jerry O'Connell and his career since he was a kid, since the TV show My Secret Identity, which a lot of people may have not seen. It was one of those shows that used to come on local TV, like UHF TV. Kids today that are listening right now don't even know what the hell UHF is. But it used to come on those channels, on the same channel that Superboy used to come on as well. And I think it used to go on back to back. And he was a kid that had special powers. And the only way he could fly is using aerosol cans. It was weird. But it somehow was an entertaining show at the time. But his career has just gone to such a rise even now. So now he's playing a kid that was had superpowers to the man with these superpowers. So it's awesome that he's able to do this, and I'm surprised. Every interview that I've ever heard him from, he's never once mentioned his portrayal in the kids show My Secret Identity. It's really amazing. He's come such a long way, and he's still keeping relevant to this day. It's 2020. It's awesome. But for him to be able to play this character with this type of range and really convince you that he's Superman, I love it. I absolutely love it. Taissa Farmiga is dark and cynical as ever as Raven. She played a pivotal role as well. I thought she did a really good job. They could have easily given this to Tara Strong, who also plays her on the original Teen Titans show and Teen Titans Go, but I felt that she did a really good job here as well. And this was her final performance as the dark and cynical, sorceress, I guess, and I felt she really played the part well. Jason O'Mara has really come into playing the Dark Knight, adding a darker demeanor to him as Darkseid's new god. I remember when the 52 universe started kicking in, the first movie of the 52 where Darkseid even first appeared. And we found out that Kevin Conroy wasn't going to be reprising the role of Batman, and they gave it to this guy. People had some reserves about him, and because we love Kevin Conroy so much, we still love Kevin Conroy so much. I mean, we love him so much that they put him on Crisis on Infinite Earth. There will never be another great Batman. As great as Troy Baker is, he does a close to as possible great Batman as he could possibly be, but there will never be another like Kevin Conroy. Is just as much as there won't be ever another Peter Cullen for Optimus Prime. There will be others, but they will never come close to how great that character's voice was. Same with Kevin Conroy, but to Jason O'Mara's respect, he has done a great job. I've enjoyed his voice and accepted his voice as this version of Batman, and I thought it was pretty cool. He did another great job, and I loved him as the new god Batman with the Morbius chair. Just awesome. Rebecca Romaine continues to entertain with the empowered reporter now, once again playing a freedom fighter, much like she did on Flashpoint Paradox as Lois Lane. She does a really good job too. Again, another character that I felt like has range, or maybe I just don't recognize her voice as much, but she's always played a really good Lois Lane in these animated movies, so she stood out as well. And just seeing every other character in the DC animated universe to appear in the film as well. Everybody, I mean, there wasn't really a bad voice. I think that these in particular that I mentioned just stuck out to me most. But overall, everybody's voice in here was top quality. Even Shamar Moore as Cyborg. What I like about Shamar Moore's version of Cyborg, though, is he's a little bit subtle, but it's Shamar Moore. It's like you just putting Shamar Moore in a cyborg suit. He's still a really cool, suave, conceited dude in there. But I love what he's done with the characters. It's a different version, but I like how he paid respect to the previous voice of Cyborg, which is, I forgot the gentleman's name from The Walking Dead. But he got the Booyah catchphrase out. So that was awesome. And everyone else did a good they just did a good job. Didn't stand out in particular, but everybody did a really good job in here. Memorable moments of this movie, there's a lot of great memorable moments, but one in particular that stood out the most was learning that Constantine dated King Shark at some point. I thought that was a really fun moment, because everybody thought that he went out with Harley Quinn, and come to find out King Shark looks at him and winks at him. Because I mean, if you guys don't know, or if you don't remember, even in the Legends of Tomorrow, he's bisexual. So he racks up with anybody. It's hilarious. But of all people, he has no preference. King Shark was his dude. King Shark gave it to him. he gave him whatever. It was that was a thing. So Superman and the gang meet up with Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad for help. So adding the Suicide Squad, because if you guys remember, I think honestly of all the movies that truly felt like it connected to everything within the universe, it was, believe it or not, the second Suicide Squad movie, because it eventually brought in Reverse Flash, or Eobor Thawne, and he still had the bullet in his head that Thomas Wayne gave him in Flashpoint Paradox. So there was a connection there, and I felt that that was the only true real connection that I felt like it all stemmed together from everything that happened from Flashpoint in there. So it's funny, on my notes I did have that the major battles at the end led to almost as many fatalities as Mortal Kombat, which is true. And on the A.C.M.G Facebook group, I did put out that like this movie seems to be more Mortal Kombat than Mortal Kombat to me. And I think it was more or less the shock value of who died, not how they died, in a sense. Because after I watched it the first time, I needed to watch it the second time because I wasn't truly convinced that I liked it or really felt that it was a great movie at first, but until I watched it. And then also before that, I watched Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge again, which I reviewed previously. And the thing that I loved about this movie, it proved one big thing. That if they had the art style, if Mortal Kombat Legends had the art style that they had for this movie, those fatalities on that movie, on Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge, would have been so great. And I felt because of the character direction and the art style, it took away, for me personally, it took away the art style in all of the DC animated movies of the 52 series, and especially this one, are fantastic, which is the same guy who's doing Young Justice. Fantastic. Some of the best we have that our country has ever offered outside of anime. And when I saw Mortal Kombat Legends, like, I like the story, I like some of the character direction. It takes the entire art style takes away from me so bad. I can still watch it, but I can't enjoy it as much as I would had it had some really great art style, much like they did with this. I really wish they would have went with this direction for the art style in this, but they didn't, and it happened. But we got to see some really, really brutal killings and deaths from some of our favorite superheroes that were dying in this movie, which brings to my point, and I mentioned about a video game. I remember years back, there was a game from NetherRealm Studios called DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat. I liked it overall. I kind of understood at the time that DC Comics did not want their characters, their beloved characters, to be killed by those of Mortal Kombat. I don't know if it was mostly because of the fact that you got like godlike beings towards like mortal beings, but if I remember correct, the storyline of DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat, they were all brought into one universe where they're all considered equal, much like kind of the storyline with Muhammad Ali versus Superman, where they went into a planet where it was inhabited by the red sun, so they were in equal ground, and Muhammad Ali beat the living crap out of Superman. Just want to point that out. But this was kind of in the same breath, just like Injustice, where everybody ate a pill that allowed them to have superhuman abilities. So here we have this movie, which is uberly violent, it's defying the philosophy and logic and everything that in the ground that DC created, the moral ground that DC created. No violence here. Nope. This is damn near rated R, rated PG-13 or rated R, whatever. Because there was like one F-bomb in an entire movie, which is something that has never been done in any of the movies before. And Raven just snuck that in. But there was a lot of really brutal death fatality moments in here. But I looked at it and compared it to Mortal Kombat Legends, and I was like, I looked at Mortal Kombat Legends again, and I'm like, you know what? Mortal Kombat Legends is still really, it's over the top violent. But this one, it was more like the deaths in this one to me was slightly more realistic, and the shock value of who was getting killed in the movie, I will not spoil that part. It was just crazy. They really did treat this like an Endgame, and they tried to supersede what Endgame has done in a sense. But it was really deep. But seriously, like, some of the deaths in this movie had me jumping with unexpected shock. Like, I watched this like, whoa. I think my shock value was more than it was for Mortal Kombat, because I was expecting, it's Mortal Kombat. You're expecting to see stuff like that. So Overall, this was indeed the anime equivalent to Avengers Endgame. This is the final installment. They wanted to go with a bang, and they left with a bang. While it was great, and it had it was a great climatic conclusion to the 7-year series that it had, I really feel that it failed in its execution to truly make us feel like this was all connected. Because unlike the narratives, it just... Here's the thing. When Justice League War came out, it was based on the original comic book that Jim Lee created. Jim Lee, I think Jeff Loeb, created, but definitely Jim Lee created in the comics. And it was awesome. I mean, they reflected on that, and then they went off into all these different movies. Now, every time you watch the end credit scene, there was an end credit scene that showed something else was coming. But it never really stressed that we were all going to lead to Darkseid during, this Darkseid Apocalypse War. It was, in fact, we never saw Darkseid until this time. The last time we saw him was it was Justice League War, which was the first of the 52 series. Everything else was a different story. None of it really led. It was just one story leading into a whole new story with a whole new different movie with a whole new different story, but still had the same characters in it. And each one of them kept doing it. And then every once in a while you had these side movies which also connected to the universe, like Justice League or Suicide Squad. Some of the Batman movies, of course. They were all separate. But somehow connected in. And it just, for me, it didn't feel like, if you compare this to what Marvel Studios have done, everything from Iron Man on, everything side of it, from the Netflix shows to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to Agent Carter, to the one-shots, all of those movies showed some connection of everything that was going on in every single movie that has ever come out. And all of it was leading into what we all knew was going to be Infinity War, which then led to Endgame. And they did this in the most subtle and strategic way. Whereas this series of animated movies were just separate. It felt like separate animated, but beautifully animated movies with our favorite people, but never really having that connection, like something big was going to happen. It never led to this. In fact, I will prove this, because I will possibly watch every single movie that they made leading up to this, and never knowing that Darkseid, they were going to go after Darkseid, or Darkseid was going to be doing something drastic that was going to lead to what was going on in this movie. So for me, I have to compare it, because that's the idea. They were doing this as a saga-based series, much like they did with the Infinity Saga. I have to compare it to this, and I think if they were absolutely trying to do that, which it looked like they were doing, I think that it kind of was they dropped a ball on that. But if you individually rate or grade each movie gets a high grade of a B to a B plus or an A. This to me felt like the only movie that ever really made its viewers realize that all of the movies were from 2013 till now were all connected, and I don't think it did that. I really don't think it did that. All except the Suicide Squad movie, which felt like all of them just felt like a standalone movie, even though there was end credits in it. It just didn't have that same strong connection that Marvel Studios had for 11 years. It didn't. And beyond that, technically, because they're still making movies. Black Widow's coming out, and that's still going to be connected to everything that's going on. You still have an emotional investment to the Marvel Studios movies, but it's hard to say that you have that type of emotional investment to the DC animated movies. I could even say this: the Arrowverse TV shows has more of an emotional connection for us fans who are watching those, because they followed up everything they did exactly what Marvel Studios have done, and a more a kind of a more diluted way, but they provided the same impact, because when Crisis on Infinite Earth came, it was a major event. They did a great job with it, and it superseded expectations. It was awesome, and the effects of everything that's happened there is still going on now. So, but this, I mean, individually, these are great movies. If you combine them all as one, it's a fail. You really don't see it. I do not have that emotional connection to each one. But this only proves one thing also, is that although, I mean, it really does. It doesn't hurt to do things exactly the way that Marvel Studios did. It's not like they trademarked that whole thing. If you do that, you'll definitely succeed. But to DC animated credit, or WB Animations credit, they have done a great job with these shows. These are some of the best comic book based animated TV shows we've ever seen, ever. Because I mean, I'm even saying that in comparison to Marvel's TV shows. They don't, Marvel, as much as I like some of the Marvel shows that are out there, and especially some of the recent ones, quality wise, art style wise, DC got them. This is where DC really, and I've watched Avengers Assemble back. Avengers Assemble is good, but I think because of some the limitations that they have with Disney, and they're not allowed to really do or go as far as with the way, like, if you watch this, I don't think Marvel or Disney will allow them to go that far. And it's not from a lack of talent or ability. I think it's just, based on restriction there. But the art style, you can't. It's awesome. It's always been awesome. It will always be awesome from that point, from there. So if I'm going to give this a grade, I would say, if as a standalone, this was a great movie. This was absolutely a great movie. It was a great conclusion to, I guess, all of the movies. Well, actually, that's not true. It was a conclusion to all this. I wouldn't say this is a great conclusion, because a great conclusion would mean that everything following up to it led to an exciting moment. But everything just came out of the blue. It was a good conclusion to the series, because it is connected to all the 7 years of the DC 52 universe, and I felt like it didn't really connect as properly. It hinders the grade here. But as a standalone movie, it's a beautiful looking movie. It's greatly done, greatly acted, and some really great moments. It just didn't really give that epic feel that you should have had if all of this was supposed to be a saga. So with that said, I'm giving this a B+. It just, because to me, the object of this movie was to connect everything together that has been going on for years, and we were supposed to know exactly how everything was following. We don't. I can tell you way more trivia about what happened in the Marvel Studios, in Marvel Cinematic Universe, than what has happened in the DC animated universe, because of how everything connected together. But I love all these movies. I love this one. It was worth it. It's definitely worth checking out. Go out of your way to check it out. And, for all else, it's a DC animated movie. They always come correct. They just didn't follow up as good as they should. So, folks, that will do it for this edition of Talk Time Live. Select Start will be back. We will be back with some new Select Start stuff. I got some games that I will be reviewing. Hopefully we'll have some news to follow up with the games as well, or some things to talk about. This week I've been playing Trial of Mana. I finally got my hands on it, and we're going to talk about that and see what I think about it, because it's another action RPG by Square Enix, and I believe it came out just about around the same time that Final Fantasy VII came out. And I am going to do some compare and contrasting in there, so we're going to be talking about that. But overall, what I felt about the game, and what it's doing and such like that. A week later, I will be getting my hands on the remastered Wonderful 101. I pre-ordered for that. Platinum Games' cult classic, I guess, because it was on the Wii U, and not many people got a chance to play it. Now we got a chance to play it. It is the crowdfunded successful game that has been remastered and coming out. So Platinum Games did it again. I finally get a chance to play it, get to review it. We'll check that out. And of course, a week later from that, another Select Start episode, which is going to be based on Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. So I'm looking forward to all of that as well. Next Sunday is going to be interesting because I got 2 movies that I'm probably going to check out, and I got to pick one. And I part of me wants to just go straight and do one. One is Scoob, which is the animated movie based on the origin of how Scooby and Shaggy met. So I absolutely wanted to check that out. But also Bloodshot, which has already come out, but I never got a chance to see it. And I was really skeptical about paying to keep this, but is now they have it available for rent. So I'm thinking maybe I should go out of my way to go check that out and see if it really is worth it or not. So I mean, for rent, for like $4.99 for rent, I'm good. I'm just skeptical. My critical thinking process was coming in as to whether I really wanted to invest fully on that movie, because this is an untested type of movie based on another comic book company that I necessarily don't read. So we'll see. I'll surprise you guys and see, but something's going to be talked about and reviewed next week. So stay tuned for that. Again, folks, please be safe out there. Stay safe. There's a lot of craziness going on right there. We're losing people left and right. That's just the reality of it. And we need to keep people as safe as possible. For those who want to be out and enjoy life, just be patient. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of things going on. But trust the scientists. Don't trust the politics. Please don't trust the politics. The politics right now out there, especially the highest of them all, are misleading people in the worst way. And I don't trust a lot of what's going on right now. But I do trust the science. Because science is all about facts. And it's they're saying one thing, the political figures are saying another, some of them, and it's just all misleading, and it's doing some things. But just be safe, keep everyone safe, mask up, stay inside as much as possible. I want to be able to enjoy a lot of what's supposed to be going on this year, but because of people's impatience, it's just going to prolong things longer, and it's just selfishness going on right now, based on people, based on lack of education, based on impatience out there. It's just, let's not be selfish. We live in a world right now where we could be entertained and we could be occupied doing so much. Just don't. That's pretty much all I gotta say. Folks, that will do it. On behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier. I'm sorry, I'm so livid right now. This is Dak Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live like, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Folks, talk to you next week. And again, be safe. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.